God is saying, "You have been asking me if they are the one, and I have answered you. You have been praying, been searching, been waiting, asking God over and over again, 'Lord, is this the one? Are they really the one you have for me? Am I making the right decision?' You replay conversations in your head, overanalyze their texts, and search for signs in every little thing. One moment you feel sure, the next you're second-guessing everything. It feels like a tug-of-war between your heart and God's voice, the same old us. We often expect God to answer in a dramatic, undeniable way, like a loud voice from heaven, a supernatural sign, an overwhelming moment where everything suddenly clicks. But that's not always how He speaks. And yet, He has already answered you. Maybe not in a way that shook the earth, maybe not through an angel standing in your room, and maybe not in the way you wanted to hear, but He has answered. And the real question is, have you truly listened? 1. God speaks in peace, not in confusion. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. 1 Corinthians 14:33. If you are constantly restless, unsure, and wrestling with anxiety over this person, pause. That might be your answer right there. You see, God speaks in stillness. He leads through peace. When something is from Him, it doesn't leave you in constant turmoil. God won't leave you in constant turmoil and confusion. It may not be perfect and it may not always be easy, but it will not be a relationship filled with endless confusion, arguments, second-guessing, or a deep nagging feeling that something isn't right. The one key to hearing God is learning to be still. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm chapter 46, verse 10. In stillness, distractions will fade, and His voice becomes clearer. If your heart is unsettled, if your spirit feels uneasy, take a step back. Sit with God in silence. Let His peace, or lack of it, guide you. The small discomfort, the uneasiness you keep pushing aside, that hesitation you can't explain, it could be God saying, "No, my son, this is not the one. No, my daughter, this is not the one." 2. God's no often looks like red flags you try to ignore. The wise see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. Proverbs 27:12. God may not always speak in whispers. Sometimes He speaks in flashing red lights. You've seen them. The uneasiness in your spirit, the late-night tears, the way you feel like you're walking on eggshells around them. You ask for a sign, and God gives you one, then another, and another. But instead of accepting it, you hope the red flags will turn green. You tell yourself love is about endurance, that things will get better, that maybe if you pray harder, they will change. But deep down, you know that the anxiety in your heart isn't love. You know that love doesn't manipulate, control, or make you feel small. You know that a relationship from God doesn't require you to shrink yourself just to make it work. But still, you hold on. You hold on because letting go feels like failure. Because you've invested so much, because you're afraid of what life looks like without them. You hold on even when God has been saying, "This is not what I have for you." The truth is, God loves you too much to let you settle for something that will destroy you. His no is not rejection, it's protection. And if you could see what He sees, if you knew the heartache He's sparing you from, you'd thank Him. So stop running past the warning signs. Stop ignoring the discomfort. Stop asking for a sign when He's already given you more than enough. Instead, be still. Listen. And trust that when God removes something from your life, it is because He's making room for something far greater. 3rd, God's yes aligns with His word. Do two walk together unless they have agreed to do so? Amos 3:3. A relationship from God will never require you to compromise your faith, your values, or your walk with Him. It will align with His word. It will be rooted in love, not lust, built on trust, not deceit, marked by selflessness, not selfishness. It will draw you closer to God, not away from Him. God will never send you someone who pulls you into sin, who makes you question your worth, who treats you as less than what He has declared you to be. Never. Yet, how often do we justify what we know is wrong? How often do we silence that inner voice telling us, this isn't it? You tell yourself they just need time to grow, that no one is perfect, that love is about patience. But deep inside you know, you've been bending your standards, making excuses, ignoring the uneasiness in your spirit. Ask yourself, would God truly send me someone who contradicts His own word? Love that comes from God will never ask you to betray your convictions. It will never make you choose between them and Him. It will never demand that you change who you are to be good enough. When it's from Him, it will reflect His character. It will be patient, kind, faithful, and pure. It will feel like peace. If you have to force it, if you have to fight your own spirit just to hold on to it, it's not from Him. And deep down, you already know the answer. Be still. Trust His voice. Let Him lead you to the love He has written for you. 4. God's answer may require obedience even when it hurts. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. Sometimes God's answer is not what we want to hear. Sometimes He asks us to walk away from something that feels good, but is not from Him. Sometimes He calls us to wait longer than we planned, because His best is still ahead, and obedience is hard. Letting go is painful. Walking away from someone you love but know is not God's will. That can feel unbearable. But what's harder? Staying in something God never intended for you. Because the truth is, if you are clinging to the wrong one, your hands won't be open to receive the right one. Biblical example of when God answers, but we keep asking. One of the best examples of this is Gideon in Judges chapter 6 to chapter 7. God called him to save Israel, but instead of trusting the answer, Gideon kept asking for signs. First, an angel appeared and told him directly. Then he asked for a supernatural sign with a burnt offering. Next, he put out a fleece, first asking for it to be wet, then dry. Even after multiple confirmations, Gideon still doubted, just like many of us when God has already answered but we're afraid to trust it. How many times has God already answered you, yet you still find yourself asking again? How often do you lay out fleece after fleece, hoping for a different response when deep down you already know what He said, yet God's answer didn't change? And when Gideon finally obeyed, he walked into victory. How many times has God already answered you, but you keep asking for one more sign? 5. God's best is worth the wait. You don't see it now, but one day you will. One day you will understand why God said no, why He closed that door, why He let that person walk away. You will look back and realize that what once felt like heartbreak was actually mercy, that what once felt like rejection was really redirection. Because God's no is never about deprivation. It could be about your preparation. If He is withholding something, it's not because He delights in your suffering, no, never. It's because He has seen the road ahead and He knows His best is still coming. His best will not feel forced. It will not leave you in doubt. It will not require you to abandon your peace just to hold on to it. God's best is not just someone who looks right on paper. It's someone whose heart beats in rhythm with yours, whose soul resonates with yours, whose love for you reflects the way Christ loves the church. It's more than attraction. It's alignment. It's more than just companionship. It's calling. And when that person comes, you won't have to beg God for another sign. You won't have to wrestle in prayer, searching for confirmation in every little thing, because His peace will go before you. It will settle over your heart before you even ask. So, if you are still waiting, if you are still wondering when it will be your turn, trust Him. Trust that He is not late. Trust that He has not forgotten you. Trust that what He is preparing for you is so much greater than what you are tempted to settle for. One day you will understand. One day you will thank Him. Until then, wait well. You have your answer. Now what will you do? You have been asking. God has been answering. But here's the real question: will you listen? Will you trust Him even when the answer isn't what you hoped for? Will you surrender even when obedience feels like heartbreak? Will you walk away even when your emotions beg you to stay? Because one day you will look back and realize the reason for His answer. The love you thought you needed, the relationship you fought so hard to keep, the person you prayed would change. None of it compares to what God has prepared for you. If only you could see what He sees. If only you could glimpse the beauty of His plan. If only you knew the joy waiting on the other side of obedience. Right now, it may not feel like protection. Right now, it may feel like loss. But hear this. God is not taking something from you to leave you empty. He is making space for His best. He is reshaping your heart so it can hold a love that reflects His own. So what has God been saying to you? What have you been afraid to accept? What have you been refusing to let go of? It's time. Time to stop waiting for another sign. Time to stop hoping the answer will change. Time to step into the life and love He has already chosen for you. Are you ready to obey?